our prayer.
Good morning and welcome into the sanctuary, everybody, and a happy Father's Day to all those fathers in the midst of us. Well done to you all. And of course, that includes mothers who are acting as fathers, or females who are acting as fathers, or fathers who have no children of their own physically who are acting as fathers. Fatherhood is what we celebrate here today. So we're delighted to be here with you and to do that. And to remind ourselves that parenthood is the seminal calling or vocation or work on this plane. It is the most wondrous thing, mysterious thing, and the highest calling anyone could ever have is the calling to parenthood. And so we're honoring that in each and every individual who parents here today. So when we look at the title of today's talk, The Father, we're not just talking about the physical father to his children. We're talking about the Father, the parent, the original first cause of all. We're talking about spirit. We're talking about the generator of life. We're talking about all that is whole and divine and good and wonderful and awesome. And that thing called life is what we're talking about. That which we are all engaged in a relationship with. That's the Father we're looking at specifically today. And when you do the studies of all of the spiritual philosophies and all the spiritual different various scriptures and so on and so forth, you'll find that the father figure is a very key figure, along with the mother figure that's a very key figure, and along with the offspring that occurs between the interaction between the father and the mother. And again, we're not just talking physically, we're talking physically and metaphysically here. We're talking about material form and immaterial form here. So as you know, in our teaching, we too embrace a trinity, the trinity of the spirit, the soul, and the body. And the spirit being the first cause, the creator of all, through the intentionality of the creator. And then we're talking about coughing too. Thought it was done with it, but obviously not. We're talking about soul, which is the female aspect of spirit, the female aspect of life. And it shows up in form as well as in immaterial spirit, as Father does. I'm just going to pause and cough if you don't mind. No use talking through it. And I kid you not, I haven't coughed at all except in the sanctuary. Yes, thank you. I have one in my pocket. I have hankies and pockets and everything else. And it's not going to irritate me, I've decided, because I've been talking up a storm and no coughs, and here I am. And here it is. And so it is. And it's all okay. Oh, that is what I need. Gin, thank you. Mother's ruin, as they call it in Ireland. There you go, nothing like what we call Adam's ale in Ireland, and Adam's ale is water. So, my dear one, speaking of water, we're speaking of consciousness. Now, this father thing is something that you and I will be dealing with throughout our days, wherever we are, and the mother thing too. And the child thing, 3. So it's this beautiful, wonderful understanding of how energy works. The male energy interacting with the female energy to produce the energy of the offspring. The soil and the clay and the seed working together to produce the fruit. It's the same in nature, all of nature. It's the same thing that happens, the same triune cycle that happens. Now, specifically speaking about the Father, it is that sovereignty It is that authority. It is that power. It is that divine substance and stuff out of which every good thing flows, and not so good thing flows too, depending upon how we interact with it. So I like to, when I think about the Father, one of the great examples I look to is the example of Jesus the Christ at one. Because his name for the divine was Father. Well, not quite Father, but Abba. And Abba is a more intimate term, meaning dad or daddy. And yet it was more than that. There's no translation for that in our language. But it indicated a very, very close relationship with Source, with the divine, with that which he called Father. And so what do we get from him? We get that the Father and I are one. I am one with the Father. I can't be separated from the Father, nor can the Father be separated from me. I of myself do nothing. It is the Father within me that doeth the work. So I don't have to feel that I have to conquer the world, that I have to conquer anything for that matter. I just get out of the way and allow the grace and the Spirit of the Father within me to do that. Through me, not for me, but through me. And I give you thanks, Father, that you hear me, that you always hear me. That was the prayer of the Christed one when there was something to be realized, something to be done, something to be mended or fixed or healed or released or let go of or brought into being. I thank you that you hear me. I thank you that you always hear me. And there you have it. Those were the only words that were needed for in that time, in that place, in that space. And then everybody was fed as a result of that. We are told 5,000 were fed with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Now, how that happened doesn't matter. The fact is, that's how it all begun. It may just have been that somebody else came up and said, well, here I have a loaf, and here I have a fish, and here I have a piece of cheese, and here I have a bottle of water, and here I have a flagon of wine, and here I have, and here I have, and here I have. It could have been that way too. I don't care how it was done. Because of an attitude of gratitude and the understanding that the Father is always in the presence and the Father is always abundant. Always abundant. So you get the concept of the deep intimacy between this relationship of the offspring and the parent, the child and the father, the mother and the child, the mother and the child. But to me, one of the most beauteous things to look at for me and to get a deep realization of what the father-mother sort of thing is, and the child too, is to go back in time to the Annunciation when the angel Gabriel announces to Mary that she is to become the mother of God. Now, that's not just about Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and an event that happened 2,000 years ago. The words were, "Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you. And you shall be overshadowed by the power of the Most High. And you will be called blessed," and so on and so forth. You will be overshadowed by the power of the Most High. Hail, full of grace. The Lord is with you. You shall be overshadowed by the power of the Most High. That's saying, hail, full of grace. The law is with you. And through that law working through you, you are absolutely soaked and saturated in the power and the presence of the divine. And when you consciously interact with that for any good particular thing, you will give birth to it. It will be realized, it will come to fruition, and it will show up in you as an experience. Do you understand that? That's a piece you and I could read over and over again and be in awe of and fall into meditation over. It's so gorgeous, it's so beautiful, it's so magnificent. Hail, full of grace, the law is with you. Blessed are you. You are overshadowed by the power of the Most High, and that which will be born of you will be called the Son of God, the offspring of the divine. This is a personal message to you. Do we understand that? This is a very personal message to you. So the next time you're feeling like nothing, and you're feeling less than, and you're having a good old wine and you feel miserable in yourself and nothing's going right, stand in front of the mirror and until you know the words, read them and say, "Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you, blessed are you, and you are overshadowed by the power of the Most High," and anything that can be born of that awareness will be indeed the son, the offspring of good, of life, of God, and then see how you feel. See how you feel then. How dare you not feel anything other but the energy rising up within you? That's a resurrection experience. And it's all about energy, as I keep saying. All about energy. We need to keep our energy topped up. Caroline Mason and others will tell you to realize any great good, you should have at least be operating on 60% energy. 60% energy for it to happen. And when it doesn't happen, when you do all your work, your prayer work, your meditation, your visitations, your corporal works of mercy, God knows what not, you're killing yourself actually trying to be good and do good, and it's not happening for you. Why is it not happening? She says, because you're doing it on fumes, you're not up to 60% yet. Because it takes energy to create more energy. You know, you have to have those sparks and the fire going to get a greater light. She says, otherwise, when you pick up your beautiful aromatherapy bottle of perfume or whatever, it's going to be just sweet-smelling, lovely, rosy water. It's not going to be the power essence that it could be if you had been operating on at least 60% of energy. How will you get there? You will get there by standing in front of that mirror and saying, "Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you, blessed are you, and you are overshadowed by the power, the authority of the Most High, and that which is going to be born of you will be godly, goodly, life-full, beautiful, wondrous, awesome, magnificent." That's how you do it. You know yourself, if you don't plug in that phone, it's not going to work for you. It needs to be recharged, and so do you, and so do I every day, every moment of every day. We need to, and you know what? When you have to plug in your phone, that's a good opportunity to check in on your own energy and see if you need to plug yourself in too. You see. That's the Father within you that can do the work for you by doing it through you. It's the only way it can be done for you. It's by doing it through you, not just for you. And we all need a great good father and a great good mother so that we can be a great good offspring child. Both of those energies are required within each and every one of us to come into alignment so that all the time what we're producing, the children of our minds, the children of our consciousness, are beautiful children that you and I can be proud of all of the time. All of the time. It's within you, it's within me for this to be able to happen. And so I shared this morning a piece from the essays of Joel Goldsmith, and it was a beautiful chapter at the end of that book, the essays, his essay book, to his son Sam. And he said, "Sam, I am going to give you this wonderful, amazing piece of secret information that is going to take good care of you throughout your life." He says, whenever there's a problem approaching you at any kind, whether you're in school with your schoolmates or whatever the problem is, doesn't matter what it is, he said, all you have to do is plant your feet firmly on the ground, close your eyes, and remember that the presence of God is closer to you than your feet and your hands and your breath itself. It's closer to you than your feet and your hands and your breath itself. And just be quiet and silent, thinking on that and that alone. And then feel it, feel it, feel it. Just feel the presence of God. Nothing else. No need to say anything, do anything, ask for anything. Just feel the presence of God for a minute or two, he says, for a minute or two, and then God will take care of your problem. See, God doesn't need our words. God doesn't need us to speak. What God, the divine, the infinite life intelligence needs from you and from me is to listen. Not to speak, but to listen. not to speak, but to listen. That's why the language of God, we say, is silence. The language of God is silence. And again, when Jesus uses the word Father, it's an interesting time he uses it. He's talking about different people, and in this one he's talking about the Pharisees. Now, the two sets of people he had very severe words to say were rich people and Pharisees. Now, rich people in the sense of people that didn't know how to handle their wealth and who used their wealth not in great good ways. And Pharisees, hypocrites, he called them. He called them actually a brood of vipers, but he says, and when you're praying, do not be like those Pharisees who stand up in the temple to pray and who stand around on street corners to pray. He says that's their reward. But you, when you pray, he says, go into your secret room and close yourself off in there, shut yourself in there, and there, in secret, where the Father hears you, pray, and your prayer will be answered. Go into your secret, he's saying. The babbling of words and the exterior demonstration of prayer, may or may not work so well for you, but if you get quiet, get silent, go into the silence, extract yourself, as Torah says, from the relative world so that you could enter into the world of the absolute, then in that quiet, silent, thunderous place of just stillness and open receptivity and listening, amazing things can happen. Amazing things can happen. And the only way you'll get to it is by allowing yourself not so much to think, but to feel that the presence of God, the beautiful presence of God, who delights, that which delights in giving to me by allowing it to flow through me, all the gifts of the kingdom, who's absolutely thrilled and pleasured to do that, is there awaiting my recognition and my identification with it, and that's all I have to do to mend or fix or heal or bring together any good I want to, or release anything that's not so good, hotsy-totsy either. That's all we have to do. Can you imagine? And Goldsmith says it only takes a few minutes firmly putting your feet on the ground, whether you're standing or sitting, wherever you are, and then closing your eyes, shutting yourself out to the distractions of the world, the exterior world, and just letting yourself feel through your breathing the breath and the presence of God within you, and becoming one with the presence of God. I'm in the presence of God, God's presence is in me. I'm in the presence of God, God's presence in me. Where God's presence is, nothing else can be. Only the presence of God can be where the presence of God is, and I'm in the presence of God. So consequently, as a result of that, there is only good and more good being expressed and experienced in my mind, in my body, in my heart, in my soul, and in the great body of my affairs, because I am in the presence of God, and God's presence is in me, and where God is, there is only God and nothing else. Or whatever else it is that you need to remind yourself in order to get into that state. And then he says, that is more than sufficient. Now, the day will come when you won't even need to say that. You won't need to say a word at all. You'll just beautifully breathe in the presence and breathe out the presence and breathe in the presence and breathe out the presence and breathe it in, breathe it out, and everything will be okay. You can't take my word for this. It's not going to convince you. You have to try it. Practice it and practice it and practice it and practice it until it happens, and you have the experience for yourself. And you will if you keep loyal and faithful to the practice. Through all kinds of weathers, hail, rain, and snow, sunshine and sleet, through spring, summer, autumn, and winter in your life. You can't just be all okay in summer. But when that winter comes, when there's not a leaf on a tree to be seen, etc., you still are consistent with your practice. No matter what, you're consistent with your practice. In the dry times and not dry times. All throughout whatever's going on in your life. And for that little practice that Joel is talking about, he says at least 4 times a day tune into that. The morning and at noon and around dinner time and before you go to bed. At least 4 times. At least 4 times. But it only takes a minute or two. So you could do it and I could do it lots of times throughout the day. And he says, you know, it's good to go into gratitude. It's good to go into gratitude. And if you're kind of embarrassed about saying grace at mealtime if you're in public, he says, just blink your eyes. He says, in our family, we blink our eyes, and we know that that means we're truly, truly grateful. We're very grateful, and we remember in the presence of God, and God's presence is in us. Just blink our eyes. And that's your grace, or whatever that is. And so, my dear ones, today is about you, every single one of you, and the Father within every single one of you, knowing how to do the work. If you get out of the way of the Father and allow the Father to do the work by doing the work through you, do we understand that? And then the mother, you see, the generator of life is spirit, and then the mother of life is the law, the cosmic womb, wherein the intentionality of spirit is poured, and then it's worked upon by the mother law itself, and then it comes out into expression as a demonstration of some kind or another. So the activity between spirit and soul, Father and Mother God, produces all of creation, all of material form. That's the way our Trinity works. That's the way any Trinity works, truly. Really. And it's all one thing. It's not a hierarchical thing. It's a thing like this. It's one thing. Just different aspects in one thing. That's all. And so let us not refuse to use what's available to us. The great creative process of our lives to produce the good that we desire because we can. And you do not need anybody else to do it for you. You really don't. You can do it yourself. However, there will be times when we're going through the desert, the dark night of the soul, or we're suffering from bouts of divine discontent, whatever we want to call it, we can go to a practitioner and they can know the truth for us by allowing us in their presence to come into agreement with what they are stating as truth in our regard. It's the most beautiful thing. It's a wondrous thing that we have these people who are studied, who are practiced, who have spent years and years developing this open receptivity to knowing the truth that sets free, available to us. It's an incredible thing. There's no higher order than the order of a practitioner. A minister is a practitioner too, but once you've become a real solid Tain So practitioner, there is nowhere else to go as far as a higher calling. There isn't. And so let's avail of our practitioners. I do all the time. And know that that's there for you. And by the way, some people say, well, I don't like this idea of people having to pay for prayer. You're not paying for prayer. I've never felt that I was paying a practitioner for prayer. I'm offering a gift to my practitioner for their time, their effort, their energy, for the response to the calling that they were given to, for the years of study and so on and so forth. And I have no problem at all exchanging energy for energy, because the money given is energy. It's an exchange of energy for energy, and it's a very, very good thing. So I have no problem with that at all. No more than I have a problem with forking out the money to the doctors and to the physiotherapists and God knows what nuts, and the beauticians and the hairdressers and all of that and so on. I mean, I wouldn't dream of going to my hairdresser and saying, I don't believe I should be paying you for doing my hair. And so on. The Father within blesses us with all of the Father's abundance when we allow it to happen, when we open our hands, receive the gift, and say yes. And so, my dear ones, have a beautiful and wonderful Father's Day, especially you daddies who are off to your barbecues and so on and so forth, and all of us who are in fatherhood roles. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to know that each and every single one of us are called to be parents. mother and father, so that we can mother and father the world within ourselves, around ourselves, and about ourselves, and rise to the occasion of the power, the grace, and the authority that we have been given. And I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to pick up this music sheet and sing a song now or not. I don't know. But if I'm supposed to do it, I'm sorry, dear ones, you're out of luck on that one. But it kept calling me, and it says, my father's eyes. Well, there you go. And now we're going to conclude, and you just say after me, right here and right now. Right here and right now. Exactly as I am. Exactly as I am. Amazingly as I am. Amazingly as I am. I am the beautiful, magnificent, truth of spirit, in expression, as life, as light, as love, as intelligence, as fun, as joy, as God happening here and now, as God happening here and now, like you mean it, as God happening here and now. So it is.